all worked just like I expected it to. Yay! Welcome. We're gonna do some art. So it's funny. I named the video after La Première Tome, which is the book I am in pre-launch on Indiegogo, and this is, there we go. That looks good. Hi, who's that? My people's watching. My peoples are here. They're arriving. Where's my mouse? I gotta click this over to comments so I know. Oh, it's already on comments. Okay. All right. Well, it's the ticker down at the bottom says it's an open invite if someone is interested in coming in. So I am down to two of the pieces that were ready to be painted. I have this one. Oops. This one. I'm gonna save this one for last. I still have like some mulling over in my mind about it. I think I'm either going to leave it black and white, or if I do put color to it, it's going to be minimal color. Minimal. I have a few pieces that I have finished that I've done this week. That at some point I will add some black. I'm going to add some black to some of the emphasis on them. So this is what I'm going to paint today, if I can get my camera angle in a place where you guys can actually see what I'm freaking doing. I know what I'm doing. I do know what I'm doing. Why does it keep going? Oh. Okay. We breathing. We're going to breathe. We're going to take a big, deep breath, and we're going to get the right brush, and we're going to decide which palette do we want to use. I'm getting like at the point for sure where all of this talk I've been having about needing to buy more paint is, push come to shove is here and upon us, where I'm going to have to on the way home from work, I'm going to have to swing through Poway to go to Michael's and grab some more watercolors. Yeah. The last thing I need right now is to completely run out of paint. And like my head tells me I'm being silly because I actually have other art supplies. I have other paints. I have a whole box of acrylics. I mean, I have all these oils. I do not have to have more watercolors. They just happen to be what I use. And this is oh man, I was doing a little bit of this week, partially because I was traveling and commuting again, and I hadn't had to do that in a long time. Hi, Miranda Miguel. How are you? This is one of the pieces for the poetry collection book that I am currently illustrating. She is an illustrated piece that goes with a poem about being reborn. I think this one's about being reborn. I have two paintings in this book that depict a woman with features of a butterfly in some way, just for the symbolic nature of the rebirth of things. And this is one of two. The other girl doesn't look anything like this. At least I don't think she does. And the scene is totally different. This is more just a cool, thank you. This is just a singular pose or image of just the girl. Whereas the other one that I painted it earlier this week. It is, it's definitely a little more involved. There's a bird cage and some chains, because it depicts another version of freedom in this other one. And again, in that one, the woman is kind of more like in the caterpillar stage before she's a butterfly. And this one is this is the woman with the wings after. I'll have to remind myself of that when I'm setting up the manuscript and put this poem after the other one sequentially. I think it would make sense for it to be separate. Okay. So I am going to hand paint these one and the other one, and then once I'm done with those two, I am going to do some touch-up work with black to the pieces that I just recently finished. And then once I'm done with that, I actually get to do one of my favorite parts of this process, which is I get to sit with the last pieces of the book. I think I might have like 5 or 6 left to conceive of the artwork to go with it, where I basically sit with the poem. I reread it. All the poetry is written, but I sit with the poem and I read it, and I look at what I'm trying to say in the poem, and I do some mulling it over, and sometimes I re-edit, sometimes I embrace. What do you call it? I haven't like totally rewritten anything, and I certainly haven't done away with any poems, because at this point in this process, the poetry itself has been written, rewritten, edited, written, or edited, whatever, more than once at this point in the process. If I hadn't made the decision to illustrate this book, I would have already published this book. I would have just slapped some artwork that's already done in the book to accompany the the poetry, but it wouldn't have been artwork that was illustrated to the poem. It would have just been art, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. My first couple of poetry books are like that. There's artwork in them, but the artwork isn't designed for the poetry like this one. But yeah, so I get to do that next, and I'll probably be able to get to that Monday or Tuesday, because I have this, like I said, I have this piece and that other piece. I usually try to come live and do a piece every day. And I've already been on today, but today, I was spotlighting a fellow colleague, and so now I'm doing this for my normal Saturday night before bed process, because this is really honestly what I would be doing anyway. Even if I hadn't been up early today to do a live stream with someone, this is what I would be doing anyway. 10, 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday, sleep is overrated. I wouldn't be normally going to sleep anyway, so this is perfect timing for me to come on and stream. And I usually get my couple of peoples. I do have my peoples here. I see y'all. I know y'all are watching. There's a few of you. I have at least one follower who, he doesn't always comment. He doesn't comment online, but he's, I know that he watches, and that's fine. I wouldn't want to make anyone feel like they have to comment anyway. But it's nice to know. Like, I see that I have people watching. I can see my count, So I know there are people watching me, which is rad. And that's enough. Like, I know I'm not alone right now. And that's super rad. That's really super rad, actually. So, let's see. I don't really know how to keep things simple when it comes to the art, other than the fact that I try not to do anything too stringent or give myself too many rules, and so I almost want to say this is going to be easy looking at her, especially looking at her in the screen. And I've made that mistake before. I've made that mistake of saying, oh, yeah, this will be easy. And it wasn't. And it wasn't, you know. It could have been. I mean, like even though I say that, and I say that the pieces, you know, didn't end up being easy, they could have been if I had left them that way, if I'd kept it that way. I just have this thing where, oh, you know, if it seems simple, if it seems too easy or easy, I'm gonna try to figure out a way to make this more complicated. Although what is really actually more appropriate isn't saying more complicated. What it really means is more creative or a different level. Like, let me up the ante. That's a good way of putting it. I've had that with my art many times, where I'm doing what I'm doing the way I'm doing it, and I go, let me up the ante. Like this book, for example. This was the first project I started at the beginning of the year. It didn't have a name then. Most of the poetry was written, as it is now. There are some new pieces that I've written since then that I'm adding to this piece. But when I started my year, when I started 2021, this book was the primary project. It was the primary project for this year. And then I got sidetracked in February, and then same thing in February, March, and April. I got quite a bit distracted, and I was doing art, but I was doing actually most of April I was working on the book that I ended up publishing first this year. So it just shifted gears. I had a whole bunch of poetry come up in February that was all new. It was all stuff I had written for someone, and I decided to shift gears and publish that before this. And that's what I was working on in April, and then I finally did finish it in May some point. Got done with that, and by the time I got done with that, I had a whole other grouping of poems, brand new, also about someone I knew. And then I got distracted with that. I'm like, oh, actually that came after. So then I come back to this thinking let me get back to this. Let me get back to this, for goodness sakes. And then it suggested to me to illustrate, put illustrations to my poetry. And I'm like, oh, okay. So the decision became made to illustrate This Is Not Emotional Burlesque, which is the name of this book, for this piece that you're watching. And I make the decision, and then I go, oh, well, I'm going to do these haikus first, because these haikus were, they were written, and they were going to be in this book. But so as soon as someone suggested illustrating the poetry, and I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And then I sit down with this book. I'm looking at this book, and the haikus jump out at me off the page, and I'm like, ooh, I'll start with those because they're easy. That's what I said. And the haikus are easy thing turns into my first graphic illustrated series art book that is truly a book of illustrated art that's actually illustrated to the words of a poem, the words of poems. I hadn't done that before. Lisa, I didn't get a notification you're on. Oh, that is weird. I'm on all the usual places. I'm not on Spotlights. I didn't go live on Spotlights. Maybe that's where you have your notification set to give you a notice. I'm on my personal, my art, and my art YouTube, and my Twitch, and my Twitter. I do normally go live on Spotlights, and so that's probably, I bet you that's where you probably usually get a notification, Lisa. Because it's the only one I'm looking at that's missing that I normally would use. All I think. Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't like missing anything, so even though I have to be good at mitigating the messaging and the notifications, I would rather that than miss out. So I do subscribe to a lot of things where I have the notification set. Excuse me. I have candy. I didn't even think about putting music on. Might have to do that after I finish the dress. After I finish this part of my woman, my butterfly woman. So yeah, for those of you that are watching, I have a few of you here. Lisa, the woman in comments right now, she is Punker Princess, and she has a morning radio show on whatever 68 radio. Definitely check it out if you like music in general. If you like punk music, even better, because she is Punker Princess. And I was up super early today and did a paint broadcast with one of my mentor guru art people that I am literally soaking up as much information from him as I possibly can. And we live streamed and painted today for like 2 hours, man. And then I forgot what else I was going to say. Doesn't matter. Oh, yeah. So I spent a lot of time on comic related madness today because it's CromCon, and it was super rad. As I have a few really rad colleagues now in that world where like they know that my book is not a comic book. It's a poetry art book, my haiku series. They know this. Hi, y'all. Yeah, so cute. Yeah, so they know this, but yet, even though they know this, they're still super supportive of what I'm doing. And I got to, in addition to watching them on the live feeds today and listening to them talk about their campaigns and their books, and I see their work and I see what they're doing, and I just know that, man, I wish I had more money to spend on comic books and these books these guys have, and some of the women what they have. It's just the work out there, the art out there. I would have so much more of it if I could. So what was I going to say? So these guys, I really was kind of struggling with wondering if I was on the right track with this campaign that I'm doing for my haiku series. It's in pre-launch with Indiegogo right now. The link is in this description for this live broadcast. And so I got to have a private behind the scenes kind of studio call using this platform, which is not live, with a couple of the guys where I shared my screen and I got to show them the PDF of the series, the haiku book, and a lot of what I was already kind of thinking I needed to maybe fix or do differently was confirmed today. I kind of was on the right track, thinking that those things, they're it's not the end of the world that I did them the way that I did them in the book the way it is right now. And the book the way it is right now is quite beautiful, actually. It came out way better than I was expecting. However, there are some things I'm going to do while the campaign is running, so that when it does go to print, it will be better. I'm not going to say that it's going to be different or whatever. It will be different. But most importantly, I intend to make it better. Because I definitely want to make sure to provide to people what I would expect or what I would want if I were getting it. And so yeah, so that's cool. That's happening. Those guys were super helpful, and it made a huge difference in my confidence today to get some of the feedback I got from them, and to know that there are a lot of people out there that really, they see what I do, and more often than anything else, they're really pleasantly surprised and about, I get a lot of comments that it's different, that it's unique, that it's unlike what they see or have seen, and and that's really rad when I get that kind of feedback, because I'd love to tell all of you, I'd love to say that lie that I don't need the validation from others, but this even though it's not a comic book, but to have these gurus, these wise men that are putting out their comic books, and some of the women that have looked at my work, to have them look at it and go, hey, yeah, you're good. You might want to do this or you might want to do that, but when it comes to the rest of it, like today, was one of the best compliments was these guys were like, we're here for you to help with whatever questions you have about the technicality of this whole thing. Some of the way there's the manuscript is set up, the way the lettering is done, some of the technicalities of it. Although lettering in a lot of ways is an art form, I'm learning, because when I did mine, I knew, and that was the thing we talked about the most today when we went through the PDF today and we kind of did this whole audit review thing of it. That was and I knew exactly what those guys, and I didn't know exactly what they were going to say. That's not right. I did not know exactly what they were going to say. But I'm not shocked about what they were saying. I'm not shocked at all, because I was already having some insecurities that I didn't, because I kind of didn't like how some of it looked. So I got plenty of time to sit down with the manuscript. I'm going to finish the coloring book edition. I'm like 2 pages away from it being done, because all I'm doing right now is the lettering, because everything else is done. And that was part of why I got motivated to ask for someone to look at the book with me, because I'm doing this the coloring book editions, and I'm like, I like how I'm doing the lettering in the coloring books, and because I'm using all the same font, all caps, and all the same colors and all the same sizes in the entire thing for the coloring book edition. And I thought about it. I'm like, while the premise of doing all this complicated font coloring and shading and all this stuff I did in the color version was a great idea. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not knocking my idea. But I'm appreciating the simplicity of the way that the black and white coloring book is set up. in the way I'm doing it. And I'm going to take that and carry it over to the color version. And another reason I have to go to Michael's is I'm going to invest in the stuff I need to invest in to do the lettering by hand. It wasn't exactly suggested that I do the lettering by hand by the wise guys. Wise guys. I'm gonna start calling my guys wise guys. So my wise gentlemen today, neither of them said that I should do handwritten lettering. But similar, I think he was kind of getting at that, I think. Maybe and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because I am going to attempt it. I'm going to do a page or two like that to see. The haikus are relatively, for the most part, they're relatively short words, phrases. They all follow the 575 syllable rule stuff, which is great. And so the idea of hand lettering those is really not an impossible thing. I can actually wrap my mind around that. Like I can actually wrap my mind around doing hand lettering for this manuscript. That means hand lettering 20 pages. And each page technically I could hand letter 10 pages. And use the same artwork of the lettering, on both pages because it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna just keep painting this right now in front of me because I still need to go and I have the ink. I've got some ink in an art kit that was given to me and gifted to me. It's brand new. It's never been opened, but it's this huge bottle of black ink, which is different, of course, than paint. And so I just need either a good, the quill that I need or whatever it is that I need to do that so I can start practicing the lettering, doing some of that. So that's what I'm doing. I mean, otherwise, that's kind of like, it's almost good because in a way that means that if, when the campaign does launch, I won't have to I'll have something to keep myself busy while it's going because otherwise, I mean, the artwork is done. It's not like I have to do any artwork. The book is done. I still do have some original pieces of art that I need to seal and do that whole sealing process with them that I do. That I will do during the course of the campaign. As the campaign is up, I will go through all of the pieces I used and used for the haiku and seal them. So that by the time it's time to do any, because if anyone backs the tiers the perks that I have in there, if anyone backs the ones with art, I'm going to need to, I've got the art's done. I just want to make sure that what I send them is as close to a finished product as I can possibly imagine. Because if, a lot of what I used to do art-wise was on paper. So that's just the other thing. I just want to make sure that whatever I send out is what I would be sending out, even if it wasn't a part of this, even if it wasn't just, illustrated art for a book. It's still a piece of art. Yeah, it's on paper, but that may change going down the road into the future. I foresee continuing to do volumes of haikus done and illustrated this way. How often I'll be able to do it, I'm thinking at least 3 a year, maybe 4. That could be too ambitious. because we are talking about 20 pieces of art. Each volume has 20 pieces of art. So the good news is, though, is that now that I'm doing this project, I do have new haikus written, and I have some of the idea of what I'm going to do for the pictures. Because what I'm doing with those, the new ones, is I'm putting them on my webtoons. It gives me an opportunity right now, like before I ever get to this phase, to look at the piece, think about it. So when I do sit down later to do volume 2, I will have those digital ones to go off of, to represent what I'm going to do in the book. I already have the second. I already have the dedication haiku done for the second book too, for the person I dedicated it to. So at least that's done. The artwork, the singular image artwork is done. I still need to do a story page of it though. I might do that with a real sketch. So we'll see. Mm-hmm. Oh, and for those of you that are watching, one of the other features that I got some strong positive feedback on is the fact that each volume has a second edition that is a coloring book. That coloring book is going to be really something I think that some people out there are going to want, because it gives the whoever gets them, it gives them the opportunity to take something like this and color it to their own stuff. That's pretty cool. It's having a coloring book that's not just stock imagery of something that everyone, anyone who has this coloring book, of course, would have it, but these are pieces. There's so much history really at this point behind each of these pieces that I think it would make it really cool. Like, I would want that. Like, I really know for me, it's something I would buy for sure. In the so each page of the coloring, it has the words of the haiku too. So it gives the person who gets those books not only the opportunity to color, which is very therapeutic, it also gives them the opportunity to consider their own painting palette of color choices as an artist, whether they may not be an artist and would enjoy it because it's a coloring book, or even if they are an artist, it might be fun to sit there and kind of take my work and put their own coloring spin on it. I am definitely someone who would, as I'm diving into this world of digital, I definitely see me being someone more interested in coloring a digital illustration as opposed to the other parts of it. But I mean, at this point, the way I'm doing it right now, I do everything from start to finish. So it's not to say that that's the only thing I do, but Yeah, and no matter how limited my skill sets are in that world now, which is very, very limited, I do know that my own actions and my own past has taught me that if I want to know how to do something, I was telling Peter this today. If I want to know how to do something, I'm gonna teach it to myself if I have to. If I have to. If I have to. Hi, someone joined. Someone else joined us. We've got three people here. Woohoo! Um, yeah, like, and then if I can't teach it to myself, if it's outside of a self-taught or self-teaching kind of category, which some things are, then I do the next best thing. I go find someone who knows how to do it, and someone who's willing to show me without making me feel less than because I don't know how to do what they do or whatever. That, in my opinion, is the kiss of death. If you think if I thought I was, some helpful person, but I had the audacity of saying no to being helpful to someone, I have just made myself the biggest hypocrite that's ever walked the planet. So I have no interest in that. No interest in coming off hypocritical. So, if I do something and you see me doing something that you want to do, or that you aspire to do, or you're interested in doing, good heavens, good grief, tell me. I will, within whatever limits of what I have, whatever it is that I have, skill set wise, whatever, I am willing. I'm willing. I'm willing to share it with you. I had quite a few people ask me for advice this week, and that always feels good. 100%. Because I was on the live stream and had to put on my do the Dori hat and have a really positive conversation, a very, very worthy, valid, loved the conversation. I got to have it with a woman who was she had a friend who was struggling and she needed some help. And what was really cool was there was people in my chat who could identify with what she was going through in addition to me. And even though I was there and I was talking and I was the one on camera, I had friends in chat talking with this woman and hooking up with, like giving her their information so that they could get a hold of her and she could get a hold of them. And that was super cool. That was like super cool yesterday when that happened because, I'm sure like I'm not the only person in the world that could have been there for her in that moment. She could have went on someone else's channel, most likely. I mean, there's quite a few people live right now, particularly on Twitch. But she didn't have to go hunting around. She found me, and she found the guys in my chat who were helping her out, and that was a sense of community, unlike anything I've seen in a long time. It was really nice. I'm listening, just doing a bit of picking up around my messy office. You motivate me. Like I love when the bands let me have sneak peek listens. I love that feeling when they ask me. 100%. No kidding, right? Yeah, it definitely matters. Like it was nice. What was super nice was most of the time. It's most of the time when you're talking with another artist, and this is what's cool. And I'm sure this is relatable to people watching. One of the nice parts about collaborating with people in the same world as you, like these two artists that I talked to today, and were willing to come in and have a discussion with me and look at my PDF author's copy. They both of them, they were really impressed with a lot of it, but by the same token, they didn't really need to comment on some things because my art is my art. And then you get to a certain point with the workings of a project where, even if they had wanted to say something about the art, or it would have been a futile waste of words, because like right now, sure, I could totally, whatever I have left to illustrate for this book, if I wanted to completely change the theme, I haven't sketched it out yet. I haven't inked it out yet. It would be super, super possible to do that, to just, create those pages in a whole new way, or create them with a whole new theme, or whatever. That'd be actually possible. But I'm not going to go back and redo artwork for an entire book. And, not that I would need to, because it may not be what people are used to seeing in a comic book, but it is definitely on a level that's different than what a lot of people are doing out there. That was really cool to get, I got quite reassured today, actually. I was very happy. It made me I needed the reassurance, I needed the support, I needed the high five that this is kind of, it's very niche is a good word for it. Comparatively. Illustrated poetry is not new, by the way. For anyone watching, whether you're, if you watch this now, like those of you here, or later, I actually do still have people watching. If you're watching this later in replay, it's actually, I can't think of the names right now, but I have at least one on my wish list. I have another on order, and they're basically they're just like this. They're illustrated poetry books where the poetry is whatever it is in the book, and the person illustrated them. That's this. So me doing that like this, that's not a new concept at all. There's even other illustrated haiku series out there, haiku books. I'm not unique at all. But I am. It's like the biggest contradiction, it's the the genre of what I'm doing, or some of how I'm doing it is not unique. The poetry, the epic poetry, the doing a graphic illustration of it, none of that is unique, but the art itself is very unique. This is the only piece that exists like this. It's not a copy. It didn't come from anybody's perspective but mine. It came straight out of this. There's no other piece of mine. Now, in this case, this one doesn't have any, I don't have any other art that matches it. I do have a few pieces in this book, though, that are rebirth or reborn recreations of pieces that I had done on canvas. There are some of those, but that's recreated work of mine, of my own. And it's just because that artwork fit. They just fit those poems. And so I went ahead and used them, rather than start from scratch and be like, okay, I could sit here and create a whole brand new image to use for this poem, this brush. Oh. I'm gonna have to lay this flat. that brush somewhere along the way got fucked up and it needs to be pressed. If anyone doesn't know what that means. Um, so I will switch to another brush. Oh boy. I kind of want to just paint all of these the same color. But no. You know, because that would be too simple, right? Like, as I said earlier, I gotta try to complicate things. I am going to try to do a hard stop tonight, so that I'm not sitting here for 3 hours, because I have been sitting for a long time today, and I'm done sitting. And I will probably end here pretty soon. Oh boy, today was a good day. Today was a really good day. That hi, more peoples. When you get a chance, Lisa, that link for my the haiku thing is in the description, and that, you know, will give you like, you get updates if what stuff, and then when I go live and I pre-launch, or when I launch, or it's in pre-launch, so when I launch you would get notified. So if you wanted to be notified, that's what you would do. You would go to that Indiegogo link and sign up for the emailing. I emailed my first round of people today that had saved it. I was super excited because on one screen it said there was only 5, but then when I downloaded the spreadsheet of people who signed up and provided me their email address so I can start building an email list, there were 8 names on it, and I was super excited. And what's really rad is 2 of those people are pretty devoted followers, and they're already members of the back private access on my website. And so that was really cool, was to see that even though they already have access to it, they still signed up. They still signed up on the campaign, and that was rad. That was pretty rad. Whether they can buy it or invest in buying it or anything like that's not the point. I really, it'd be nice. Sure, I hope this is a successful campaign. I mostly am doing it to raise the funds that I need for a digital device and some art, like basically the art related digital device and software stuff. Like, that's my main goal, really, is to at least raise enough money for that. And have more people read the book. Like, have people actually read a poetry book. In 2021, how about we read some poetry for a change? I mean, it's got to be better than following that news channel. I mean, do you really want to watch the news today? I didn't want to watch the news yesterday. Why the fuck would anyone think I'd want to watch it today? I didn't want to watch it yesterday. I didn't want to watch it the day before that. I didn't want to watch it the year before that. Trust me, I haven't wanted to watch the news ever. Like, maybe like that. Not ever. Definitely not right now. Fuck that shit. It's too many. Ugh. So yeah. So what we do? Let's do some art instead, man. Let's get some art on people's minds. So I hope people want to try it out. Okay, signed up. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. I will make sure you get the welcome thank you email that comes with a gift. It's going to be super rad. But yeah, like, it's, one of the things the guy said today, he was talking to me, because the haiku is Japanese. It has, I think it's used by all kinds of other cultures, but the oldest roots I believe it has are um, Japanese. The heart. So I never had heard of this. So there's this thing that they do called wood blocking, where they sketch on wood and then they use these carving devices to carve out some of the wood, so that what you're left with is a print impression of the artwork. So then you can use it. It basically creates a plate similar to, what's really cool is it's almost exactly the way we used to have to make flyers back in the day, when I was so young. Yes, guilty as charged. I was so young that I worked somewhere where there was no such thing as a Xerox machine. When we made the flyers, we had to use this old school light box and these stencil cutouts and all this stuff to basically set up um, a piece of, you held it, so that it would go into this machine and create an impression with it. It would cut an impression with it, is what it did. And then that would be what we would use to ink. It would actually, just like if you ever watched anything in the old days where they're doing like an actual newspaper, this rolling looking thing would go through, and it would cross over this thing with ink, and then it would go on the paper. That's old school shit, man. So that's how I had to learn how to make copies of anything or whatever. So when I was checking out what Japanese wood blocking was, and I'm like, now I understood. After I watched like the first video, I understood why he suggested it, because doing what I do, doing these pieces of art to illustrate a haiku, it blew my mind, because I'm sitting there thinking I could totally see. So basically what I would do is I would take something like this and sketch it on that wood, and then carve out everything except this actual impression, and turn it into something I can actually make prints with. And that would be for future campaigns. If I got into the wood blocking and doing some wood blocking, I could totally see that as an additional perk or tier or whatever it would be for someone to pay or want to have a print done with it, to have an actual print done with it. Because that in itself is a piece of art, the actual print itself. Even though it's a print of it's not the original art. The original art is on the wood. I can totally see someone wanting that, And I guess if I really wanted to, I could sell the actual wood pieces. I could see why some people out there probably wouldn't sell them. They'd probably keep them and just sell prints from it. I don't know. I guess it would depend on what it is and how I felt about it. I know like that has a lot to do with for the most part, I do have some pretty standard ways of doing some of my pricing on my art based on the advice I was given by fine painters that I asked back when I started this whole thing 6 years ago. Talk about soaking up information. I called all kinds of people, was sitting down with all kinds of people. And like Kate actually said it best. She's like, she mostly just tries to paint or price them relatively the same based on size. And that's what I do, depending on what it is. It's rare that something the same size as something I have is going to be a different price, higher or lower. But it does happen. There's a few pieces that I didn't put it a lot higher. but I did put it higher. So, all right, you guys. I am. Wait. I am going to finish the blues around these little circle guys first, so I don't come back and forget that I had 2 of them undone that I hadn't even touched. So I will probably sleep in tomorrow, unlike today, considering I was up super early. Totally worth it though. It's 100% worth getting up early. And then I don't think I have anything I need to do tomorrow except, finish these. It would be nice if I finished in time tomorrow during the course of the day so that tomorrow night, because when I sit down and do the conceptual part of the art, I've done most of that late at night before bed. It's kind of like I clear my head, I get in my jammies, I've laid back, and I just let it come to me, But the only reason I haven't done that part yet, I've done tons of that. Every piece of art you guys have been watching me paint has went through that process. But the only reason I haven't done it in a while is because I had penciled and inked at least a dozen paintings. At least. And this is one of 2 that I have left out of that stack. So when I'm done with this one, I have 1 more. And then I will give myself permission to conceive new art for the other pieces. But I told myself I was not going to work ahead and that I have to finish these before I do those other ones. And it's good that I've gotten disciplined like that, because by the time I get to that point, I don't know why I'm trying to eat. Hi, Donald. Hi, Dori was going to watch a concert clip, but well, I'm actually going to be finishing some of this color and then signing off, because I'm trying to get more disciplined about keeping it to about an hour. I don't think there's anything wrong with painting for 2 or 3 hours, but it's really not necessary. I have had a few pieces, and I've had quite a few pieces where I finish it by the end of the broadcast, whether it's 1 or 2 hours or whatever, and people like that, they like that. Okay, so I said all of that about her, and then I'm looking at her and I'm like, she really, other than a few areas, she's almost done, really. And she will go into the pile next that will be pieces that I will re-blacken with the black. Like, I will go back through it and do more work on the black that was here that I've painted over. So after I'm done with this, that's where she goes next. I don't have a lot in that pile because a lot of these last pieces, I've just been mostly doing that as I go. as opposed to holding. The only reason I have a couple to do now is because I've kind of been on this roll, and I've been doing the ones like this that were harder, or I knew they would take more time. I've kind of waited. I saved doing this part with these to be more towards now, like to be at the end. And so it does mean, for me, it does mean me, having to. I'm going to end up with a stack that I'm going to have to color or paint, or not. Oh, no, I'm sorry, do the black part, which is kind of similar to a whole nother round of inking. Like I'm basically, I've penciled these and I've inked these, and now that I've added the watercolor, I'm basically going to have to go through another secondary process where I do some more kind of inking in a way. Not really technically, it's not really technically what I'm doing, but maybe that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just going back in and I'm adding the black lines to the piece that separate some parts of it, like, because I'm, for the most part, right now. And so when I come back here after I'm done with all the paint, I get my black acrylic out, or sometimes I use the tempera, and I will paint it all black. Like, do all this anywhere you kind of sort of see black. I will, maybe strengthen it with a whole other coat or whatever. Just depends. I've had a few pieces where I get to that point in the process and I don't use the color black. I might use a really dark purple, for whatever reason. Depends on the color scheme of the piece. Yeah, so I was telling everyone, if you're still there, Donald, that there's a link to my Indiegogo campaign in the information for this live stream. That is a link for my first campaign that is going to basically, what it's called, a crowdfunding campaign, where I get backers to help assist with producing the book. And the book itself is on Amazon, the haiku book, but I would love to get it to more people, and have more people get to see it, and have more people have access to it. And that's 100% why I was like, okay, even though it's on Amazon, I still want to do this. So. It's not good when I forget what color I was using. Like, I know what color, I couldn't find it on the palette. I'm like, where did it go? I'm clearly tired. I can't get comfortable. That's a good sign. Okay. All right. So we're here. I'm going to do these 3 little areas with the green, and then I'm going to say goodnight, because I've officially stopped being comfortable. I need to lay down, I need to lay back. I will finish her wings, this part, I will finish tomorrow. Okay. So she is as done as I'm going to get her for now until I come back on. So yeah, I want to thank everyone who's there. I really love when I have company. You guys are super rad. You're rock stars. Thank you for stopping in and dropping in. And I hope you have interesting. So yeah, I hope you guys have a good rest of your night. I'm about half asleep.